We're recording? Okay, cool. We're recording. Welcome to this first episode of a brand new podcast. One of the many Pokemon podcasts out there. However, this one's different because I like Runarigas a bit too much. I mean, I named my entire podcast on its ability, so I kind of have to like it. And as all podcasts go, this first episode's just going to be a bit about me and my Pokemon life, journey, whatever you want to call it. Unfortunately, I do not have any guests today. I will try to find some, but for the meantime, you'll have to deal with my deep voice. Anyway, without further ado, let's jump into it. Okay, so where do we begin? So along my Pokemon journey, the first Pokemon game I ever got was Pokemon Let's Go Pikachu for the Switch. I know. I'm young. I'm a little Timmy compared to all these old people they've actually played the earlier games. The earliest game I've played is Black. It was on a cartridge, and then I think something corrupted because it kept blacking out. Anyway, other than that, what else? Pokemon Let's Go Pikachu. I was unfortunate enough to box my Pikachu. I know how inhumane of me. This is mainly because, well, the starter Pikachu, while it's a good Pokemon, it's much better than any other Pikachu. My brain was still in that phase of, oh, it's the evolved form is better. And Raichu would be better if it didn't know the just absolutely broken starter moves that the partner Pikachu gets. I'm kind of glad they didn't add held items though, because if they allowed Pikachu to hold a light ball, doubling its special attack, I'm like 90% sure that's what it does, that would be just completely broken. Anyway, about my team, I don't remember too much from my early days of Let's Go. All I do remember is one of my team members was a Kadabra, which I leveled up to 56. Then realized that it was a trade evolution. Because for some background, for some context, not long after getting Let's Go Pikachu, I think it was that Christmas I got Let's Go Pikachu for Easter, which weird Easter gift, but whatever. I got Shield, and that game had Dragapult, and Dragapult evolved at level 60, and I believe I was on and off, or my brother was playing one, I was playing the other. Actually, out of all of the Pokemon games I've played, I remember the least about my specifics in Shield. Because I was younger, and I believe I don't think I actually ever finished Shield. No, I don't think I did. I think I got to Winden and then got Scarlet, got Violet, Anyway, speaking of Violet, Violet was the next game I played. I played it for I chose Quaxley. Oh, I forgot to mention starter choice. In Shield, I chose Grookey because my cousin chose Grookey, and yeah, that's the reason. And then in Violet, I was the third member of my family to start a save file, I believe. I think we pre-assigned starters to each other, which is kind of weird. But anyway, this is like 5 years ago. Like, no, 5 years ago. It's a long time, but also not that long. Time is a social construct or something. I don't know. Anyway, so Scarlet and Violet, I will have to admit something. While I was playing Scarlet and Violet, I did not have a main team. I was very detached from my Pokemon throughout my times playing Scarlet and Violet. And an unfortunate side effect of this was not really caring which Pokemon I brought in. So I just brought whatever Pokemon was strong against the specific gym. That was until I'd finished the main battles for all three. I'd stopped playing Pokemon. I believe I was starting to play Mario Kart slightly competitively, never fully competitively, but slightly competitively. And there's just a massive noise in the background. Anyway, apologies if that annoys you. It's annoying me right now. But anyway, I saw one of those shiny legendary trade things, and I did a lot of those. I always made sure to keep them keep the ones that were just given to me separate. But other than that, my Pokemon, I actually sorted my Pokemon by type in the boxes. Gave up. Although, a while, like a massive while after getting Scarlet and Violet, I believe it was between the time of ZA's announcement and its release. And no, between, it was 2020, last year, whatever, 2025. My brain jumps around a lot. Anyway, yeah, it was last year. And so I had matured more as a Pokemon player. I'd scrapped using those legendaries except for my own raid battles. And I'd decided, know what? I learned that this took place in Unova. And I decided, you know what? I am only going to use Gen 5 Pokemon. And that worked for a considerable amount of time. I meant Gen 5 and new Pokemon. I had Pachirisu, I had Leavanny. Gen 5 is my favorite generation, as you can probably tell by the name of the podcast being the name of an ability of evolution of a regional variant of a Gen 5 Pokemon. That was really weird. Anyway, I like Gen 5. I like Mewtwo from Gen 5. So that was pretty easy to do. I had a Pachirisu, I had a Leavanny. What else did I have? Those were the main ones. I had a Reuniclus. I still had my Quaquaval, which at that point did end up was level 100. So what was the last two? Oh yeah, the Ogre Pawn. I've probably forgotten some. There was the Ogre Pawn, Terapagos, and I'll actually give you a story. So, spoiler alert for a 2-year-old DLC. That first time you had to go around to catch all of the not catch, to battle all of the loyal 3 to get the masks back. This is, you like encounter them and they run away, then you encounter them to battle them. And on my first encounter of Pheasantipity, as I'm running forward, my eye tilts to the right because there's like a massive group of Bronzong, and one of those Bronzong were green. There was a shiny Bronzong, but what my eyes saw, what my hands did, were two different things. My hands activated the cutscene where the Pheasantipity goes away, and all the Pokemon, I don't think phasing out's the right word, but they kind of like cease to exist for a split second. So they did that, and I was like, oh no, I've lost a shiny. Whatever will I do? I'm like Purplecliff. I didn't know who Purplecliff was at the time. Apologies. But, yeah. But, thankfully, it wasn't there, and I could get myself my shiny Bronzong. Anyway, while I'm on the topic of shinies, I might as well talk about my first shiny, which is actually, I don't like my first shiny too much because this was back in Let's Go, back in my unsentimental Pokemon phase, if that makes sense, where Pokemon weren't really of value to me. And so I'd found a shiny. I caught the shiny, obviously, but I didn't really care that I caught a shiny. So I transferred it to home. It was a Fearow. I saw it in the Victory Road. But I didn't like the shiny, so I just sort of tossed it aside, never to be used again. So, the next shiny after the Bronzong, I didn't find any shinies in Sword and Shield. The next shiny after Bronzong, actually, I believe there's a shiny in between those, a shiny Solrock in Go. But I'm not going to mention Go shinies too often unless they have some sort of value to me. So there'll be one other later down the line which I will mention from Go. But I was teleporting into the savannah of the terrarium. This is the shiny after Bronzong. And I look to my left and I see a Vibrava with red wings. I was like, and I didn't think much of it at first because that was the first Vibrava I saw of the thing. And then my brain was like, wait, doesn't Vibrava have green wings? So then I encountered it and I was like, let's go, another shiny. And then I decided to evolve it into Flygon. Worst mistake I could have made. Flygon's shiny is yellow and blue. Yellow and blue. They contrast so much. Honestly, literally just do what you did with Vibrava. Make the wings red, maybe make the body red, make the entire thing red. Don't bother changing the entire thing. Actually, wait, I think there were 2 shinies in between, but I do not exactly remember getting them. There's a shiny Tropius and a shiny Toadskull. Don't know how I got them, but I had them. Anyway, the next shiny after Vibrava, I believe I had finished the DLC story. I don't think I'd done the epilogue yet, but I finished the other bits of the DLC story. So, I was running around the terrarium doing blueberry quests and stuff like that. And I go under a palm tree because I was in the coastal biome. I go to a palm tree and I see a Slackoth in the shade. And the shade, and it was also not like night time, but it was sunset or sunrise. I can't exactly remember. It was one of those two. And so everything was toned blue. Not like tone blue, but like blue, like deep blue, like a blue, purple, red thing. Not everything was toned. My brain's not. So there's the Slackoth, which also made me think. So it made me think that the purple-looking Slackoth that was in front of me was just a regular Slackoth that was in the shade. But I encountered it anyway, and to my great surprise, a shiny Slackoth. Now, shiny Slackoth, I quite like. It's purple. It's nice. It does the job. It's a random color palette change, shiny, changing it to purple. But then I evolved it into, what does it evolve into? Vigoroth? And the shiny was barely noticeable. Like, I didn't even realize. I was like, did this thing unshiny on me? Did the shiny just go away? But it did not go away. I evolved into Slacking, and I was disappointed again. Because Slackoth had such a cool shiny palette, and they just decided to all over it. Apologies for the swear. But why did they decide to get rid of the purple? I just don't get it. Anyway, after this shiny Slackoth, my next shiny, this is the other Pokemon Go shiny I was talking about. And I was just, looking, I was sitting at home, spinning the Pokestop that's near my house and encountering any Pokemon that was nearby. I was just encountering, just for the sake of it. And I encounter a Tepig. See the sparkles. My finger already pressed the exit button, so I exited out. I was like, oh no, did I fail a shiny? Thankfully I didn't. That would have been absolutely horrible if I did, but I didn't. So that's the important part. And it's taken some time to get it to an Embor, but it's an Embor now, and that is actually my buddy in Pokemon Go. So, gonna take a quick break, and then when I'm back, I'm gonna talk about my Legends ZA journey, because I believe that is that's gonna be a much bigger segment, and then after that, I'm gonna talk about my competitive experiences. And I am back. Still don't have a co-host. Don't didn't don't think I was gonna get one. Oh, sorry. In that short amount of time, but who knows? Anyway, my Legends ZA journey. So at the start of Legends ZA, I didn't know too much about the game. I got the game a couple of weeks prior? No, not prior to the release. A couple weeks after. I think like a week and a half after. And so I did intentionally avoid story spoilers. That it was the Jedi Fallen Order and Jedi Survivor were games where I got spoiled by my brother by my brother playing it, and I got spoiled on major spoilers. I'm not going to spoil them here, mainly because this is Pokemon. But anyway, so I was deliberately cutting myself off, like getting out of the room whenever my brother was watching a playthrough, whenever he was playing the game himself, what have you. There was one thing I got spoiled on, and that was the fact that you got a second starter. But that's fine. Oh, and another thing I got spoiled on, I did look at a video with all the new megas, mainly so I can collect my thoughts on them. And also because I decided that I was going to use a team comprised fully of new megas. And that didn't work out too well, but it is what it is. So the starter I chose for my ZA playthrough was a Chikorita, because I always liked the Chikorita line from like handbooks and stuff. It wasn't game guides. It was like the anime handbook almost. But everything after Gen 6 was just kind of lazily thrown on top, which I didn't really like, but that's its own problem. What was I getting at? Oh yeah, I like Chikorita. And what else was I going to say? And I obviously knew that Chikorita got a Mega. I quite liked the Mega. I chose Chikorita. Now, the first Pokemon I caught that remained on my team for a while was, I was doing some exploring before, like during when you had to do like the 3 missions, and I stumbled upon a Pidgeotto that was level 19. I felt like, oh, I shouldn't be here, I'll just catch the Pidgeotto. And that was, in my opinion, the first Pokemon I caught that would end up being a key team member. Team member. Team member. I don't know what I'm saying, but anyway. Now, I don't precisely remember the orders from there, but I know once. Actually, no. There's one thing. There's one Pokemon that was on my team that I'd say. No, not. No. I will say I did keep the gift Absol for a bit. The Absol that you get from defeating the Mega Lucario. But. Oh, one more Pokemon. After I unlocked Wild Zone 10, I went in there. I was like, that's an Alpha Sharpedo. And I caught it and I put it on my team. And then I decided from there, my team will be consist of entirely new megas that were alphas. Because I liked the big Pokemon, and big Pokemon are funny. Anyway, after actually a bit before that, I was running along a rooftop and I heard the shiny noise. It's like, oh no, did it disappear? Because I was going back up, and then I saw Bunnelby. Don't really care for shiny Bunnelby. Had it on my team for a bit, ditched it. But it is what it is. Anyway, a Pokemon that I wanted, that I feel like I should have used but didn't end up doing it, was Electros. Once again, like Gen 5. And also Electros. I like electric types in general. Honestly, I like most Gen 5 Pokemon. There are exceptions. Simisage, Simipour, and Simisea don't get a pass. I'm sorry. But, yeah, I am a fan of most of Gen 5, which is why it's, for me, my favorite generation. And I did actually use a Gen 5 Pokemon. I used Mega Chandelure. And I always liked Litwick. I was always a fan of Litwick. And so when I learned that its final form, Chandelure, got a Mega, I was excited to use it, but I was sad because I was still like many years later, I was still disappointed at the fact that Alakazam was a trade, and I don't know why, but Chandelure felt like the kind of Pokemon that would be evolved into by trade. So I was sad, but I decided, you know what, I'll just look through my bag. And then I realized that a Dusk Stone worked on it. So there, I used the Dusk Stone. I have my Alpha Chandelure. And yeah, the Pokemon I actually really hated before playing Legends EA was Barbaracle. I don't know what compelled me to pick a Barbaracle for my team. I think it was I wanted a rock type. I think I wanted a rock or ground type, but I didn't want to pick Excadrill for some reason. So I ended up choosing Barbaracle. I had a Victory Bell for a while, a Mega Victory Bell, but I ended up ditching it for type overlap with Meganium and another Gen 5 Pokemon, actually. Scolipede. I had an Alpha Scolipede. It missed every single one of its ranged attacks from close range, but that's just because of how big Alpha Scolipede is. I'm trying to think. Were there any that I didn't mention? Oh yeah, out of the 3 Kanto starters, I chose Charizard. That is the only time I will ever do that. And yeah. So then, time for me to move on to the next chapter of my ZA, not phase, of the ZA portion of my life. I tried to beat ZA using only shinies because shiny hunting was the easiest it had ever been, and I realized the value of shinies. So I played the game normally up until I unlocked a Wild Zone 3, and then from there I did the stair method, where you run up and down the flight of stairs for a while. And I decided the first Pokemon that shined, that would be my starter, in replacement for the actual starter that I got. I got a shiny Flabébé. Actually kind of fitting. If there ever was a fairy starter, I would choose Flabébé. Being honest. Because Flabébé just has so much of a starter vibe. It should be grass type, but anyway, it was Flabébé. And I did that, and then after that, I did some Wild Zone traveling back and forth shenanigans. In Wild Zone 2, got myself a Magikarp. It was female, so I nicknamed it Rumi. Because it was gonna be golden, no longer. Because Gyarados is red. Anyway. I believe I also had a Pidgey. Yes, I had a Pidgey, shiny Pidgeot. Now this is a lot cloudier in my memory, because A, I didn't end up finishing, and B, there is one shiny that I caught that overshadows almost all the others. I will say there's one more. Call it outside Wild Zone 4. It was a Weedle, which I evolved into a Beedrill. However, there were 2 shinies I wasn't like racing to get or anything, but I wanted to get more than any other. Shiny Gumi or shiny Dratini for an eventual shiny Dragonite or shiny Goodra. So every single time that it rained in my game, I would rush over to Wild Zone 3 and start leaving my controller there, hoping for the shiny. And time again, no shiny Gumi. Got a bunch of shiny Fletchlings, got some shiny Scatterbugs, I even got a shiny Spritzy, some Go-Goats, got a Pikachu, no Espers surprisingly, and some Litleos, and some Skidoos. But no shiny Goomy. However, one time I did this, I come back to find that my character had fainted, maybe from something misaligning the controller to make it feel like I went in a different direction or something. And so, I figured, it's probably not there because it probably died quickly, but I'm gonna have a look. And boy, am I glad that I had a look. Because what there was a shiny Goomy. But not just a shiny Goomy. A shiny Alpha Goomy. And that is not only my first Shalfa. Actually, no, it's not my first Shalfa. My first Shalfa was, I did some shiny hunting in Wild Zone 10 for a Slowpoke. It was the Alpha Sharpedo was there, but that's in the old save file. It was not only my first shiny Alpha that's not guaranteed to be an Alpha, but it was my only not guaranteed Alpha shiny. And so Goodra like immediately jumped into top 10 of my favorite Pokemon. Not top 10, but like it moved up the ranks considerably after that. But yeah, that is my journey through Lumiere City, through the game Legends EA. And after this break, we're going to have a quick chat about my competitive playing, which is horrible, but it is what it is. And then that'll be the episode. Anyway, on the topic of shinies, I was on my break. I opened one of my free packs in Pokemon TCG Pocket, and I pulled a shiny Squirrel, so that's kind of nice. Screw, I need somebody, screw. Anyway, so my competitive journey started with a Wolfie VGC video, I think. Don't know what video it was, but I was surprised, but I was like, ooh, competitive Pokemon's a thing. I like Pokemon. I'm going to try that. So after watching many a Wolfie videos, none where he actually played, unfortunately, but many a Wolfie videos talking about the competitive viability of certain Pokemon, I thought, oh, I should be able to do this. So I put in the team from a Miraidon video into Pokemon Showdown, and I believe I've won one game with that team. Then I tried building a Zamazenta team. Was horrible at it. Tried making other teams. I believe I tried making a Calyrex Ice team. Didn't work. Until Pokemon Champions came out. And from there, and from then, I realized what I like about what I want to do in competitive. Like, not like official competitive. I'm not going to go to tournaments or anything. But what I want to do is to make the most with the least, if that makes sense. As in, I want to be the best I can with Pokemon that aren't really considered good. And so that led me actually to Runerigus, because I got Runerigus in one of my 10 pools, and I saw its ability, Wandering Spirit, and I thought, oh, what does that do? And then I saw it, and then I thought, that's insanely funny. I need to put that on my team. So I did. I put it on a team. However, I didn't really feel satisfied just having the one funny Pokemon on my team. It felt like it was missing life. So I decided I was just going to make not a horrible team, but a team that isn't like a team that's not really on the top. So that led me to a team of Runerigus, Superior, Aggron / Cofagrigus, depending on how I'm feeling on the day, Skeledirge. Don't know why I needed to say that weirdly. Wait, my brain's not working. Runerigus, Superior, Cofagrigus / Aggron, Skeledirge, then Mousehold, because Population Bomb is an incredibly funny move, and then a Taurus, probably the most viable on my team. However, I might actually swap Taurus out for Quaquaval, because I do have a Quaquaval. And then my other team, it's a Mega Starmie team, not a rain team though. You're actually using the weather? How dare you? No, I'm gonna change it up though, because it has Dragonite, Mega Dragonite, but I'm probably gonna swap it out for Mega Meganium. A, because I like Meganium more. B, because Meganium's better. And C, I don't know. Anyway, I don't know what I'm going to talk about for the rest of this. I've only been talking for 5 minutes about competitive. So you know what? I'm just going to talk about some Pokemon that I like to use on my teams that maybe you can draw some inspiration from. Obviously, there's Runerigus with Wandering Spirit. However, if you get a Kangaskhan, teach it Fake Out. Wait, no, not Fake Out. A Scrappy Kangaskhan. Use it to fake out your No. If you get a Intimidate Pokemon, choose a weak move on your Runerigus. You need to make sure that it's the faster Pokemon. And then the Runerigus uses a weak move back. You've now activated Intimidate twice. So, your opponent's attack's going quite low. This is why I prefer Runerigus over Cofagrigus, because Cofagrigus just gives the attacking Pokemon the ability mummy. It doesn't swap the abilities like Wandering Spirit does. And anyway, there's obviously 5 Pokemon there. Another Pokemon I like to use was Quaquaval. Moxie is a great ability. It raises the Pokemon's attack whenever it knocks out an opponent, so you can easily sweep. I mainly use it on my singles teams, but I also have my favorite Goofy Pokemon, which isn't on my Goofy team because it's not fully, doesn't really fit the Goofy team. It is a bright powder sand veil minimize sandaconda. Because bright powder gives each move a 10% chance to miss. Sand veil in sand gives moves a 10% chance to miss. Don't know the exact details. So already that gives moves an 81% chance to only an 81% chance to hit. But then minimize, I'll just quickly look up accuracy stats and what the percentages are, because I want to be okay. Oops, sorry, my computer battery's running low. Shouldn't be too much of a problem. Sorry if I'm... Apologies if I'm distracting or something. There it is. Sorry, I'm... Okay, my laptop's charging. So... I'm trying to find stages of accuracy. No, I can't be bothered finding it. But it lowers accuracy by 2 stages, so that means a 100% accurate move goes down to, let's just say a stage is 10% each. So that will go down to, quick maths here, 72.9. Then it becomes 65 point, 65.7 something. Anyway, becomes roughly 66% accurate. So then you use it again and again, and then you're not getting hit. You're just not getting hit. I don't know why, but I don't really use Protect. That's probably the reason I'm not as high in the rankings as I could be. But yeah, this has been the first episode of hopefully many of the Wandering Spirits. Hopefully you know me a lot more now. So, hey, put some stuff about you in the comments. I might listen. I might read some of them. Probably not, though. I will try to get the episodes to like around an hour to an hour and a half. This is obviously a shorter one because I've ran out of stuff to talk about. So, yeah, I will see you next week.